Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is our ninth installment of Instagram Lives, where we are continuing this chat surrounding our recent campaign that we did at Nobu, which is Everybody is a Pilates Body. This campaign is focusing on the term Pilates Body. And our focus with this campaign has been to flip this narrative and remind everyone that everybody is a Pilates body, regardless of your age, your gender, your body type, so on. We've had some amazing guests. We've had some really insightful conversations. And today we've got Nadia. Nadia is one of our incredible instructors at Nobu, and we're going to get straight into it. So Nadia, tell us more about you and your journey with Pilates.
Sure. So, firstly, I have been a personal trainer for coming up to 14 years now. Pilates, honestly, I know it sounds cliche, but it honestly helped change my life. It brought me into the profession that I am in today. It started when I finished, I was just starting kind of university back in Perth, Western Australia. And I started working part-time at a physiotherapy clinic. And within that, there was podiatrists, there was physiotherapists, and also clinical Pilates. And so every day I'd see professional athletes come in, from professional basketball players, Australian Football League, football, golf, you name it, coming in and doing their rehabilitation programs. And there was one particular story that really stood out to me. There was a professional basketball player, he was one of the part of the Australian team.
Yeah.
And he had a really bad knee injury. So he came in 5 times a week, and within his period where he couldn't obviously play any matches, he came and trained with this particular instructor called Tony. And by the end of his program, he had improved his vertical jump. He had improved greater range of motion through his hips, which then meant that his stride became longer.
Yeah.
He became faster on the court. He was more agile, and essentially was more of a competitive player. So he just went from strength to strength. And as I was having these conversations with him, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this Pilates magic? Give me some of it. Do you know what I mean? I want to be a part of it. And then, unfortunately, but I suppose fortunately, I then had a really bad ankle injury. And so at the time, my instructor there, who I hadn't started Pilates just yet, was like, Nads, don't worry, I've got you. And obviously, I'm sure you may have felt the same, looking at the reformers and some of the Cadillac, it can be a bit daunting at the start. And I'm like, am I strong enough to do this?
Yeah.
Right. Am I strong enough, etc.
Yeah.
And so she was like, we're just going to get you moving. Don't worry, I've got you. So her first approach was, we're going to get the ankle moving. We're going to get you stronger.
Yeah.
So did lots of, balance, coordination, stabilization work within my ankle. But also she then started implementing the jump board. So for me, that was beneficial because I wasn't being able to do, running. I didn't want to lose my match fitness because I had a really important tournament coming up. So when she used the jump board, it was helping with my plyometric work.
Yeah.
And it was also helping that less impact for my knees and my ankles, because I obviously couldn't jump on the floor, but I could jump laying down using the jump board. So it was it was just helping me so much. And by the end, my left side, which was the side where I had the injury, ended up being so much stronger than my right side. And I was like, oh my gosh, this Pilates magic is real. And I honestly just fell in love with it ever since. And that's when it then inspired me to become an instructor. I was already kind of delving in. I hadn't just started yet doing my personal training. I was about 17, 18, and I never stopped doing it since. And it's just, I just love it. It's just helped change me. You know what I mean?
I completely know what you mean. I had a similar thing. It was an injury that got me into Pilates. And it's always those points where you're like, oh, I can't believe this has happened, that lead you onto this, incredible practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And connecting to our recent campaign, what is your experience with this term Pilates Body?
So firstly, absolutely love the campaign. I think it's the narrative that it's trying to portray is absolutely incredible. For me, like you mentioned earlier, whether whatever size or shape you may be, whatever race, gender, whether you have a disability, whether you don't have a disability, it is literally for every single body. And I say that from personal experience. Throughout the years of me coaching my clients, I've had clients, all different walks of life. I've had clients who have had spinal fusion, muscular dystrophy, teaching some of my clients.
Oh, can't hear you now. Yeah, I can.
So, whatever it may be, is they've walked out a more stronger version of themselves. And I think to me, that is the most beneficial thing that, you know, not only as an instructor, but just seeing that the change that it brings to their life is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, again, a prime example of how Pilates is literally for every single body in one way or another, right? And how you adapt that approach of Pilates is obviously depending on the individual. And that's why I just love how exactly it is for everyone.
From an expert perspective, what are your personal reasons for training in Pilates?
Sure. So obviously, like firstly, having my own experience, like I mentioned before, when I first started Pilates when I was injured, and coming back stronger than I ever was before. But also how it complements my resistance training when I'm at the gym, right? How it also complements my running.
Yeah.
And I say that because I really feel like Pilates helped me build that muscle mind connection. It helped me focus on those really small intrinsic muscles, which sometimes we tend to neglect, right? It's like we
Yeah.
always focus on the muscles we can necessarily
Yeah.
see, and not the ones that kind of like deeper within. And they're sometimes the ones that we need to work on more, right?
Right. Work together.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's finding that nice complement with each other. And I find that the moment that I start to maybe not be as disciplined with my Pilates practice at times, whether that be lifestyle, work, whatever it may be, I start to notice those niggles start to creep up, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like nudging me, like, no, it's like, don't forget about me. Like, Pilates is your best friend. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Awareness. It's that body awareness. It really like connects you
yeah.
back to yourself.
Yeah, and I
Or
know it can sound so cliche when we say that, but like it's just proof, in my opinion. Like it literally does build that muscle mind connection and just that overall awareness. Like I'm sure you feel the same, H, is like you feel more confident going into a certain movement. Like let's just say I was to go into like a heavy squat or a deadlift. I don't feel so like, oh, is my back going to go in this position? Or do I feel tight? I don't feel afraid in that position anymore. Or yeah,
yeah,
I just feel more
you've got that
confident in my movements.
back it up. You've got your abdominals, you've got
Yeah,
your shoulders, everything is working as one.
absolutely.
What would be your message to someone who is nervous to try Pilates?
Okay, so with that question, I'd say if the worst outcome, in my opinion, of trying Pilates for the first time, the worst possible outcome would be walking out feeling more centered within your body, feeling and like a sense of education, knowing that you're building or understanding how to seeing the benefits of building that muscle mind connection, but also having more awareness of your body, right? And I feel like if that is the worst possible outcome of trying Pilates for the first time, then sign me up, right? And like I mentioned before, I know it can be so daunting. You see the machines and you're like, oh my gosh, like, what is
Yeah.
this? You know, like, can I do it? Am I going to be fit enough, strong enough, flexible enough? Like,
Mm.
there are so many adaptations that you can do to like regress movements.
Yeah.
Whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, you're always going to benefit from a session, right? There's always going to be something that you're going to learn from.
Oh,
You
100%.
know?
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that. And you've got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
It is
And it's that first step, right?
feel a little bit daunting, but my God, the journey afterwards,
Oh,
so worth it.
it's the best. It's just the best feeling. And I think, pardon me, as like we always say, it's just that first initial step. And then once you take that step, it's like
Oh,
that step leads you into just like a greater
yeah,
world, you
yes,
know? I mean, for us, look, that first step led us into our careers now,
I
right?
know.
Yeah.
Who do you admire in the Pilates community?
Okay, can I say that like there's a few? Can I not just say that there's
Come
one?
on.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, great. So firstly I have to say Tony, who's instructor from Perth, that she's the one that essentially got me into Pilates,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that is she, yeah, it was, you know, I admire her because she always said to me, and I was, I feel like you've got the eye. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you've got the eye. Like I can tell you just understand the human body. You're so passionate about you know Pilates and you know the way the body works and helping people. And so I think sometimes by her saying that it always stuck in my mind, and I was like, that's honestly when I started changing my direction in my career. So I stopped university, and I was like, why am I doing commerce? Like this isn't something I really enjoy. And then I started taking the fitness industry route. I'd also say my instructor trainers who were like Charlotte and Rob. So they taught me at King's Cross in the YMCA, and they essentially helped me lead or open the doors to some of like my Pilates opportunities, whether it was, you know, them referring me to students who now I have that privilege of being able to mentor, you know, future students to become instructors. So for that, I'm forever grateful. And also, I think, like I saw Marsha, like for what she's created within Nobu it's just incredible, you know. And I think not only just within London, but like worldwide, like I'm sure you feel exactly the same age. Like we were going to class in Nobu, and some people have literally flown in from Qatar, have flown in from, you know, America. And I'm like, oh, so what are you here for? Like, we just want to do a Pilates class for at Nobu. And that it's just absolutely incredible, the community that she's created. And like I get to work with people like yourself. You know, like the team we have is honestly just I feel so blessed. And I pinch myself every time I walk in, I'm like, this is unreal.
You advise people to split their PT and their Pilates practice.
Okay, so with this, I feel like there's not going to be a definite or sway my answer to one particular side. And the reason I say this is dependent on each individual, right? So my goals, H, are going to be completely different to your goals. So, however, what we focus on in terms of maybe when whether it's rehabilitation or focusing more on strength, we may prioritize our goals for a certain period of time and then they may change down the track, right? So I honestly think it's about balance. So let's just say it's someone's first time and they're like, listen, realistically, Naz, I've got 4 days where I'm going to be able, which is still a lot, I'm going to be able to do, you know, my training. So in that case, I'd say, okay, firstly, tell me your goals. And let's just say it's quite balanced. I'd say, okay, well, let's do 2 resistance training sessions and 2 Pilates training sessions. But something I really want to say on this, it's about the quality of training over quantity. You know, I feel like so many people, and I'm prime example, I did it back in the day, like when I was still learning. I thought I've got to train every day, I've got to get in as many sessions as I can. And then I overtrained, started getting injured, started getting fatigued. And then the moment I started cutting back, I started seeing results more because I gave more time for my body to recover and I started putting more quality into my sessions.
Oh my God. And I think to that, they're like, okay, more is better.
Yeah, and it's so not, you know?
You lose that connection with your body. You need
Absolutely. And you don't want it to also feel like it becomes a chore, you know? You want to still be able to hold that passion and that because motivation is going to come and go, but it's always about that consistency and like setting that time for yourself.
And enjoyment with your movement as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being able to move well is a privilege. And you don't need to overcommit to get
exactly.
And what is your personal favorite piece of equipment? People.
Okay, this is a tough one.
It is, isn't it?
Because I love, obviously we know each equipment has its own kind of benefits, but I'm going to say Reformer purely because that was the first piece of equipment that I was introduced to when I started Pilates. So I feel like that was where the magic happened and that spark that ignited where I was like, yes, I love Pilates and I want to continue this for forever. So for that, I will say Reformer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might agree with this.
Yeah.
What's your favorite to train on?
What's that? Sorry?
Your favorite for your body.
Oh, sorry, that was my favorite. As in, like, I'd say my favorite piece of equipment for just in general. But for myself, I mean, when I'm doing my own practice, I do delve into a little bit of everything because I know I'm like, oh, okay, this can feel harder on the reformer, this can feel a little bit harder on the tower. The chair humbles me always. You know, like the ladder barrel if I need a lot of extension work. Sorry, what did you say?
Sometimes you do have to be in the mood for the chair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So sometimes I'll try and do it at the start. So I'm like, get over and done with. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, because if I know that it's coming right at the end, sometimes I'm like, I'll try and like avoid it. I'm like, no, it's like do it at the start because in that way I can't turn back. You know?
I really do know.
Yeah.
Well, Nadia, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's so lovely to talk to you.
It's so nice to talk to you. That was a real treat for me as well. Then anyone that's logged on, thank you so much for joining us. We've got a few more of these in the pipeline, so stay tuned. And then again, if you haven't checked out our campaign, please do check it out on our Instagram. As I said before, it is truly incredible. I hope everyone has a lovely Sunday, and I'm sure we'll see you next week. See you now.
Hey everyone.